Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, part of the fun of this job is discovering filmmakers that I can't wait for people to see. And you know, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, pretty much everywhere. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the TikTok, and we're on the Letterboxd for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large, because, you know, if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, oh my God, we're really excited about this one. It is a new film which has done its festival rounds, and it is getting an exclusive week over at the TIFF Bell Lightbox and possibly other locations around Canada, but definitely the TIFF Bell Lightbox for a week. It is called The Five Devils from our friends over at MUBI, the streamer, one of our favorites. With if you haven't signed up for MUBI, I do recommend you do that because they are a fantastic service. But The Five Devils is from co-writer and director Léa Mysius, and it's the story of Vicky, who lives with her mother Joanne and her father Jimmy, who's really struggling to find his place. But when Vicky's aunt Julia arrives after being released from prison, her presence back in this brings back a violent and magical past, really. I mean, it's weird. It's a little strange. There's fantasy, there's romance, there's coming of age, there's family drama, there's a lot of stuff, and I'm a little hyper about it and blabbering a bit, but it's because this is a darn good piece of cinema, which I cannot recommend highly enough. Like I said, if you were in the Toronto area, go see The Five Devils, because it is playing over at the TIFF Bell Lightbox starting today. But first, enjoy our conversation with co-writer and director Léa Mysius, because between you and me, it is a darn good one. All right, well, Léa, obviously, first off, just congratulations so much on the film, and thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I absolutely love the film. I mean, it's obviously this very personal story, but told in sort of a very fantastical way. Can you walk me through sort of the origin of the story on your end?
La première image que j'ai eue vraiment du film, c'était une jeune femme qui hurlait devant un feu la nuit. Donc, c'est vraiment la première image du film. Et ensuite, l'idée que j'avais, c'était de parler d'une petite fille qui soit un peu étrange et burlesque et solitaire, qui avait un don pour les odeurs et qui, grâce à ce don, allait en fait pouvoir accéder au passé de ses parents. Et c'est vraiment le lien entre ces deux images qui a fait que le film est devenu ce qu'il est.
So the very starting point of it was this image I had of a young woman at night screaming in front of a fire. And then I had this idea of creating a character, which is this young girl who's quite strange, quite burlesque, quite solitary, who's got a gift for smell. And this gift gives her access to the memories of her parents. And by bridging these two, the image and the idea, I created the script.
That's fantastic. And I mean, obviously, this story comes through so well thanks to some fantastic performances, particularly Adèle and Sally. Can you talk to me a little bit, not just about finding them for the parts, but making sure the chemistry was right, because they work so well together?
C'est vrai qu'on a beaucoup travaillé leur couple, en fait. Comment le couple mère-fille parlait, marchait, etc. Parce que donc Adèle, si je l'ai appelée, c'est parce qu'elle était vraiment très différente du rôle aussi. C'est-à-dire qu'Adèle, elle est un peu explosive, etc., alors que Joanne est très froide. Et elle devait jouer cette froideur, notamment cette froideur avec sa fille. Et Adèle avait du mal, en fait, à ne pas être très généreuse avec Sally et à l'aider à jouer. Et du coup, ce qu'on a fait, c'est que... Enfin, vas-y, traduis peut-être, et puis ensuite, je continuerai.
So we really worked together on the mother-daughter relationship between the two actresses. And Adèle is very, very different in personality and in her acting style to Joanne, who's very rigid, very cold. Adèle is very explosive. And so she found it quite hard to not be her very generous self with Sally's character.
Et du coup, ce qu'on faisait, c'est qu'on travaillait sur... Je leur donnais des images où, par exemple, Adèle devait être un arbre et Sally devait monter sur elle comme si, et s'accrocher à elle comme si c'était un petit animal sur des branches. Où je leur donnais l'image d'Adèle, c'est une girafe qui avance comme ça, tout droit sur la plaine. Et Sally, c'est le petit oiseau parasite qui vient lui enlever ses petits parasites, justement, sans que Joanne ne fasse... Enfin, la girafe ne fait pas attention. Elle reste droite comme ça et le petit oiseau est autour d'elle. Et ça ne veut pas dire que Joanne n'aime pas sa fille. C'était tout ça le travail. C'était comment garder cette espèce de distance comme ça et ce rapport qu'elles ont toutes les deux, corporel, et qu'à la fois on voit que Joanne aime sa fille parce qu'elle l'aime encore.
The way we worked together was I gave them these images to play act. So one of them was, for example, Adèle would be a tree and Sally would be this kind of little animal that's climbing all over the tree, or Adèle would be the giraffe just walking kind of somberly and slowly without blinking, and Sally would be this little kind of parasitical bird that's picking at it. And it was how to kind of portray this distance, but without taking away the clear love that they have for each other.
For sure, absolutely. I see that. Now, I mean, obviously, there are themes of family and sort of, interpersonal relationships and sort of generational kind of trauma. But because you tell this story in sort of a framework that is a little bit more genre with sort of the time travel and a little bit of more fantastical, it feels like it opens up the narrative a lot more for you. What is it about working in the artifice of genre that allows you to sort of, I guess, color outside the lines or play outside the box, as it were, when it comes to a specific kind of story?
Oui, c'est qu'en fait, c'est vrai que le genre et le fantastique m'a permis d'être beaucoup plus libre dans la manière de raconter et de plonger dans quelque chose qui est psychanalytique. En fait, c'est les souvenirs, aller chercher ça, mais de le tirer du côté du ludique, du populaire, de l'agréable, parce que c'est vrai que j'aime bien parler de sujets très profonds, mais de le faire de manière légère. Et en fait, le fantastique me permet à la fois d'être libre et de m'amuser, et à la fois d'amuser le spectateur. Et que, en fait, les thèmes profonds, ce que ça peut faire rejaillir chez nous, reste quand même très profond et très dark et très primitif, tout en jouant sur un genre qui est plus facile, quoi.
Yeah, indeed. What I found was that this genre allows me to have much more freedom to explore this kind of psychoanalytical theme and give it a more playful tone, really. So I really like finding ways to make quite profound subject matter light and playful and have fun myself and allow the audience to have fun, because ultimately they're very kind of dark and primitive concepts that are universal to us all, and I feel like the fantastical genre allows us to play with them in a lighter fashion.
Et à la fois, la magie, c'est très étrange, très inquiétant aussi. Donc, il y avait ce côté-là de la magie éblouie et inquiète. Et pour moi, le cinéma, c'est un peu la même chose, quoi.
And there's this thing where with magic, there's something very worrisome about it, but it sparks a light in people's eyes while simultaneously being something that's quite strange and worrisome.
Comme le cinéma.
Like cinema.
Well, and I mean, that leads to my next question, because I mean, I love that you shot this in 35 millimeter. It made it feel more warm and more tactile. How important was it for you to sort of give this story very much a much more three-dimensional feel without having to obviously use 3D,
Oui, pour moi, c'était vraiment c'était indispensable, même le 35 mm. J'arrivais pas à imaginer le film autrement qu'il soit... parce qu'à un moment, on a perdu de l'argent à cause du Covid et tout ça. On a repoussé le tournage et il était question d'abandonner la pellicule et de devoir tourner en numérique. Et j'ai essayé d'imaginer le film en numérique, mais d'un coup, ça disparaissait le mystère, la magie, justement, le côté charnel des choses, avec les couleurs profondes, le contraste. Et c'est vrai qu'on pourrait se dire, ah ben, on est moins libre en pellicule parce qu'il y a moins de temps, parce que c'est trop cher, donc on doit tourner moins. Mais dans cet espace-là, moi, je trouve plus de liberté parce que je préfère tourner moins, mais tourner avec cette matière-là, que tourner énormément avec du numérique que je trouve plus lisse, en fait, et moins pénétrant. Ça pénètre moins le spectateur, il me semble.
So I find it not only very important, but essential to shoot on film in 35mm. And in fact, with COVID, we lost a lot of money and had to reshoot. And the first thing that nearly went was the use of film. And then I contemplated using digital technology. And I thought we lost so much of the magic and the mystery of the film that it just didn't work anymore. And I think the problem is that people think, well, with digital, you've got much more freedom because it's just not as costly as film. But I'd rather shoot less and still use film. This is what allows me the most freedom in my work. And I feel that film also has this kind of very penetrating quality that digital doesn't, because it's kind of a very smooth way of shooting.
Yes. Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree. Now, I mean, just to wrap this up, I love that this film and obviously your previous film, Ava, are both prismed really through the eyes of a young woman. And I mean, what is it about that perspective as a storyteller that draws you in? Because at least to me, I find it very, very engaging and very grounded, almost in the real world, while still having that sense of youth at the same time.
Est-ce que tu peux m'aider sur la fin? Je n'ai pas tout à fait compris.
Just to make sure I understand, you mean you're asking about kind of why this focus on youth?
Yeah, like we see it through the eyes of youth.
Pourquoi voilà, se regarde à travers la jeunesse.
Alors, c'est vrai que dans tous mes courts-métrages aussi, il y a des enfants et des jeunes gens. Je ne sais pas trop l'analyser. Je me dis, le prochain, il faut que ce soit un film d'adulte. Mais bon, l'idée, c'est que quand même, ça reste des films d'adultes. Mais je pense que c'est parce que j'ai du recul sur cette période-là de ma vie, peut-être. Et que aussi, c'est un moment dans l'enfance où j'ai forgé mon imagination. Et que du coup, peut-être que maintenant, quand j'imagine, je suis encore cet enfant qui imagine. Et que naturellement, je vais vers des enfants et des jeunes femmes et des très jeunes filles. Et là, je me dis que maintenant, j'ai suffisamment peut-être été adulte et j'ai suffisamment vécu adulte aussi pour pouvoir raconter à travers des yeux d'adulte. C'est ce que j'essaie de faire en tout cas maintenant.
Yes, I seem to have focused a lot on very young people and kids. Not quite sure why that may be. I think perhaps it's because I'm now older and managed to have much more of have taken a step back from that period of my life, so can assess it more appropriately. The other thing is, when I was a child, that's when my imagination really developed. So I'm naturally drawn to young people because that's when their imagination is most fertile. But now that I've lived enough years as an adult, maybe I can take more of a step back and look back on that period and tackle it in my future work.
Et surtout que, en fait, j'ai l'impression aussi, pardon, mais que j'avais, parce que j'ai l'impression de le perdre aussi petit à petit, que j'avais la capacité d'être au présent dans les yeux d'un enfant, que j'avais les souvenirs assez précis de quand j'étais enfant au présent. Alors que maintenant, ça commence à s'éloigner un peu, mais c'est peut-être parce que je viens d'avoir un enfant, donc j'ai changé de statut. Peut-être que du coup, ça va influencer sur ce que je vais écrire.
I should add that the other thing is that up until very recently, and that's kind of disappearing, I could be very much in the present, in the mind of a child, because it was still quite precise in my mind. It was quite recent enough. But now, maybe because I've had a child, I've gone on to this kind of new status as a mother, that I've taken a bit more distance from that period of my life.
Well, and it's this unique prism where obviously there is the innocence of a child, but the age of the characters is knows enough about the world to sort of mimic adulthood and aspire to it at the same time. It's such an interesting dynamic.
Parce que pour moi, un enfant, c'est pas innocent. Enfin, en tout cas, c'est pas. Il y a évidemment une certaine naïveté de l'enfance, dans le sens où les enfants ne sont pas au courant de tout, mais ça veut pas dire que. Enfin, je suis un peu contre cette idée de l'enfant Walt Disney. C'est vraiment loin de ça. Pour moi, un enfant est plein de mauvaises pensées, plein de perversions, plein de questions existentielles, et qu'en fait, c'est beaucoup plus complexe que ce qu'on veut nous faire croire. Un enfant est beaucoup plus étrange et beaucoup plus pervers, mais ça ne veut pas dire que ils sont mauvais, hein. Ça veut dire que ce sont juste déjà des personnes, quoi. Et qu'en plus, tout est exacerbé parce qu'il n'y a pas encore le filtre des conventions et de la société, pas encore en tout cas.
I think it's also because for me, kids aren't necessarily just innocent. There is obviously a big part of naivety and innocence, but fundamentally, I am against the idea of this kind of Disneyfied child. For me, kids are perfectly capable of bad thoughts, of existential, very kind of complex, sometimes perverse thoughts and ideas, because essentially they're people. And they don't have the weight of conventions and that kind of the social restrictions that go with taboos. They kind of say everything at that age.
Right. Well, I mean, Leah, you made a fantastic piece of work, and I can't wait for our audiences to see it. But I mean, Leah, Abla, obviously, thank you both so much for the time today.
Thank you very much.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.